Okay, so lesson 2 focuses on question 4 and question 5. This video will talk you through all of the activities. So again, I'm going to tell you when you might want to pause. I'm going to give you more help for question 4 than question 5 because question 5 you went over last week, and there's actually quite a clear table to help you develop your answer this week to that. Okay, I will do one more video this week just to explain what I want you to do with the time in lesson 3. Okay then, so slide 16, you'll see that again there's those quick answers, and you can find the answers to that at the end of the slides. You can find the answers to it next to it, so I'll try not to show you that too much more. So it's the next slide for the answers, okay, not click here. I knew I'd change that, so I was a bit confused then. Okay, then slide 18. Ask you question 4. So it is different to the question 4 I went over in the first video about the extract this week. That's because I changed it when I was planning lesson 2, because I think you're more likely to get a drama and tension question than a setting analysis question, which it was originally. However, you may get either or, okay? I hope that doesn't confuse you. So how do these lines build tension and drama? So you need to refer to language and structure, you need to refer to the text, and you need to use subject terminology if possible, and it is worth 10 marks. So exam tips, you need to find words and phrases that writers use to present the topic. So to create actually would be better phrase there, used to create tension or drama. Create or build tension. You need to make inferences about how that tension is created. And the top answers will have 8 to 10 PEAs. Okay, so if we just go to the extract, I'm going to read lines 12 to 27 and highlight anything that I think is creating tension while I do it. Okay, so that should be highlighted in the document that you get, and should be able to help you to pick out some evidence. Okay, so he came forward 3 steps and paused for a time. Okay, so coming forward suggests that he's interested. He might. So this is a selenite that's being described. But obviously, for the narrator and his friend, the selenite coming towards them is creating tension. It's making them feel like he might attack them. They can't predict his steps. They don't recognise what he looks like. They know he's not human, so they can't assume that he'll act like a human. So he came forward 3 steps and paused for a time. So again, this suggests that he's thinking or contemplating his movement. So it creates tension because it suggests that this being is quite intelligent maybe and might be more of a threat to them. His movement seemed absolutely noiseless. That's tense because it means that they don't get any warning about him moving apart from if they watch him. So more of them could be arriving around them, and that's quite freaky. And he came forward again. So again, this inch by inch, it's kind of like Who's Afraid of Mr. Wolf when you're little and you're moving a tiny bit at a time, and it builds the tension because people are getting nearer and nearer to you. But also, it slows down the pace of the story, so it's ramping up the tension because as a reader, we have to wait longer to find out. He walked like a bird. His feet fell one in front of the other. He stepped out of the ray of light. So this is the first time that we've been able to see him properly because he's putting himself into proper. Oh no, sorry, I've misread that. That happens sometimes. Stepped out of the ray of light. He's actually hiding himself further there if he's stepping out of the ray of light. I thought he stepped into the ray of light. And again, he vanished altogether in the shadow. So all of this darkness and mystery is really creating tension. Why? How? Be specific. It's tense when he steps out of the ray of light because there's even less light on him. So he's being presented as even darker and even less likely to be able to work out what he's thinking and going to do. And it says he vanished altogether in the shadow. Again, this seems unpredictable. Like they're not sure what angle he might come from, or they can't kind of try and monitor or observe him for his actions. For a moment, my eyes sought him in the wrong place. So again, something might happen because I'm looking away from the creature, so the creature might be able to attack me. Then I perceived him standing facing us both in the full light. So now it's been revealed to us, but only the human features I'd attributed to him were not there at all. This narrator sounds shocked. That suggests to me that what is there is even scarier and more freaky, okay? But this paragraph break, using this here and then giving us a paragraph break before revealing to us what he looks like, is also creating tension because it's also making us wait for that key information, okay? Of course, I ought to have expected that, only I didn't. So this is something that had shocked the narrator. It's gone against what the narrator was expecting. It came to me as an absolute, for a moment, an overwhelming shock. Okay, so this is something that it's hard to look at. And we are humans. We're in the position of the narrator, so we would also find it hard to digest. As though it must need a mask, a horror, a deformity. So that suggests how horrific it is to look at. Or it needs to be explained. Okay, so how does somebody end up looking like that? Suggests it's really shocking. There was no nose, and the thing had dull, bulging eyes at the side. Now, this description shows how inhuman it is. And that builds us tension because we tend to be scared of things that are different from us. We don't understand them, we can't predict them, and they might be a danger to us. You have to be specific about why this information is causing tension for the narrator and therefore for the reader. There were no ears. Oh, I had supposed there were ears. There were no ears. So this kind of shock for the narrator constantly is kind of ramping up. I cannot draw one of those heads, he's saying. It's not possible for me to reimagine this and show you what it looks like. The mouth downwardly curved like a human mouth and a face that stares ferociously. So that suggests that he is a vicious creature in some way. The neck on which the head was poised was jointed in 3 places, almost like a short joints on the neck leg of a crab. So there's 3 stems coming off of the head. That's the image I'm getting, like 3 different necks. And the joints of these limbs I could not see because of the putty-like straps in which they were swathed. If you're swathed in something, you're covered. So it's like clothing, which form the only clothing being worn. So he was wearing something like putty, which is not normal clothing to us. It then creates confusion. And there was a thing looking at us. Now, again, one of the key things, you need to refer to the beginning and the end of this section of the extract. You're given those lines for a reason. One of the key things to write about that last line is there still hasn't been any action. So the tension is still being built at this point. It hasn't reached a pinnacle. We don't know, as readers of this extract, what's going to happen. But the fact that there the thing is a metaphor, which suggests how impossible the narrator finds it to describe this thing with words. Interestingly, H.G. Wells uses the thing in War of the Worlds as well to describe the Martians. So it kind of suggests that it's overwhelming and it cannot be described with human vocabulary. And then looking at us with an exclamation mark suggests some kind of a threat, like they're all poised waiting for action. So it ends on a really high point of tension. Okay, so you're going to try and label those highlighted bits to say how. Okay, so you might want to pause now and label each one to explain how tension is created. Then you're going to continue writing this answer. So I'm going to write the beginning or read the beginning to you. The writer builds tension at the start of these lines with the movement came forward, as we and the narrator do not know why the selenite is approaching. It could be danger. It's really good to say we and the narrator because we're suggesting that the reader is in the position of the narrator, which is quite a bright thing to notice. However, the verb paused then deflates the tension in some ways as the selenite is stopped moving, although the pause gives time for suspense about the unknown to build as well. It was my next bit that I've highlighted after that. I'll write the next line for you, okay? Absolutely noiseless. Okay, so what I said about absolutely noiseless is that there's tension because it suggests that they give no warning and there could be more of them coming. So I've got the writer builds, however, next. He describes the selenites. Need a capital for the selenite. Movement as absolutely noiseless, which highlights the danger that the narrator could be in, as selenites clearly give no warning on approach, which means they could be surrounded by more of them. Potentially be surrounded by more of them, increasing the tension. So I did nearly forget to focus on the question then, increasing the tension. Okay. I would use connectives like after this, it becomes more tense because, So it then becomes more tense because you're trying to structure it all the way through comments about whether the tension is rising or falling and why that's happening. I would pause now and I'd carry on writing 5 or 6 more points for that answer. Okay, then question 20 asks you to answer some questions from question 4 again. Slide 21 moves on to question 5. Okay, the Selenites are very frightening creatures. How far do you agree with this view? You can agree completely, you can disagree, or you can agree to a certain extent. I would advise agreeing to a certain extent, usually. So I've got a table here for you to fill out, quotes here, and then you need to say why the quote shows it's frightening as well. And then likewise here, anything against it. So the ideas I put in for you already are: blank suggests we don't know yet if they're frightening. The narrator sees selenite features as a horror. It suggests he is frightened by the image. Comparison to a crab suggests less threatening and a familiar link to humans. And then again, use slides 23. And I'm not going to do a video for this one because you did this one last week. So I want you to be trying to remember how to do this, all right? Trying to really challenge yourself. If you're really struggling with how to write this question up, you can go back to last week's work. You start with, I agree with the statement to an extent and a brief summary. So I, on this slide, have modelled that for you. I agree with the statement to an extent as the Selenites are presented as frightening near the end, but at times they seem more of a curiosity. At the start, I agree with the statement that the Selenites appear quite alarming, as the mystery of blank adds to the fear of the unknown. The adjective black, often associated with fear and horror, begins to add a frightening sense. Okay, so you can continue that answer. You might want to pause now, and then on slide 25, you can do a bit of dirt on that question 5. And then there's just a last kind of learning checker on slide 26 for lesson 2. As always, guys, any problems, any issues, any confusion, please contact me and I can email you or give you a ring.